Often we hear within the carnivore community that we don't need to track anything. The advice is often just to eat to satiety, and the rest will work itself out. But as with everything, that doesn't work for everyone all of the time. So today I'm actually talking about why we sometimes need to track our food, when we might need to track, and what we might need to track. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I've been eating a carnivore diet since May 2022. And today, as I said, I'm going to talk about tracking our food and our macros when we're on the carnivore diet. So there is something that's happened in my experience just recently that has spurred the topic for this video, as often happens, and I'll get to that. But first, let's talk about whether, or more precisely, when we might need to track and what we might need to track while eating a carnivore diet. So first, I'm going to talk about when not to track, like when we don't really need to track. When we are just starting out on the carnivore diet, my suggestion to anyone who is asking me, and I do have people asking me these days, would just be to eat. Eat all the animal foods that you love, eat the dairy, keep your coffee in if you love that, and just eat all the animal foods. My thoughts with this is to do this to allow the healing in your body to start and to help keep you on the program so you don't fall off the wagon. Ignore the calories, ignore the macros, just eat the animal foods. This will help it'll help to stave off your cravings. If you can keep yourself feeling really satisfied, then the cravings for the carbohydrates and the sugars and things that you've been eating are not going to be such a big deal. It's going to allow your body to start healing because you're getting all that nutrition from the animal foods, and it's going to allow and help you to adapt to this way of eating. So the challenge here for some people is to just be flexible. Okay, be flexible and be open to whatever happens. Your body knows what it's doing. So if you gain some weight initially, that can just be part of your journey. It was for me when I very first started on carnivore. I actually gained weight initially. I gained about 6 kilos because I just got so blinking hungry. But I had listened to other people talking about that, and so I just kind of went with it, even though it was kind of concerning me a little bit because I wanted to lose weight, not gain it. But that kind of tapered off eventually, and then the weight started going down again. And my weight loss has been really slow. But over the last 2 years, I've dropped about 10 kilos or so. I've still got more to go, but it's just part of the journey and being part of my healing. So my advice would be to just focus on how you feel and focus on your symptoms. So if you've got disease processes or things going on in your body that you want to resolve, just focus on those. I mean, I always tell people to write everything down at the beginning. Write everything that's been going on in your body that shouldn't be, every little skin thing that shouldn't be there, every little, headachy symptom. Write all those things down and then focus on that. Focus on how you feel and what's actually changing in your body to start with, and just eat the animal foods. And that might be for the first, it might be for a couple of months, it might be for 6 months, it might be for a year, just depending on where your body's at, where your health is at, and what your goals are. So the next part of this is when to track and what to track. So once you've been on carnivore for some time, so this might be a couple of months, or it might be a few months or a year, as I said, then you can kind of reassess and see where you're at. You can then kind of work out what needs to change, what's not changing that you want to change. Have you got symptoms going on that you want to change? Have you got weight to lose? I mean, weight is the most common one. Weight loss and sometimes weight gain. They're the kind of the most common goals that, once people have been on carnivore for a little while, if they're not changing, that people actually want to change. And though whether it's weight gain or weight loss, that comes down to hormonal health. Okay, so that's hormones. Hormones dictate body composition, and that is really important. So to fix hormonal health, fat intake is basically key. So the important macros within the carnivore diet, of course, are fat intake and protein intake. And so some people, when they start on carnivore, this has been me as well, will focus way more on protein than fat. And so if you've got hormonal issues, if you've got thyroid issues going on, any kind of weight issue, then that generally comes down to hormones, and fat is really key to resolving that. You need to make sure, of course, you're getting enough protein to keep and build muscle and build tissue in your body, because your protein is the building block or building blocks. And so that's important for muscle and bone strength, and even your skin and all that sort of thing. Your hair and your nails. That all comes down to protein. But fat is the energy source, and fat is the macro that's going to help to your body to resolve the hormonal issues and any kind of mood issues as well. So things that are going on in your brain, the fat is really important. So when it comes to tracking, fat and protein are basically what we need to track. Calories are questionable, and so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in this video. But the fat and the protein are the things that we are going to want to track for sure. So what happened to make me decide to make this video? So this is my little story. I fell off the fat wagon and I didn't actually realize it. So a few months ago, I was doing a high fat carnivore diet, and I did that for a couple of months. And then I thought that I had made a decision to stop, but I didn't really know why. So I'll backtrack a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video talking about how I decided to start making L-Rootery yogurt again. Now, I had stopped eating dairy, I think, when I started on the high-fat version of Carnivore. And when I made the video talking about, starting to do the L-Rootery and how I'd started eating dairy again, I spoke in that video about how I had been craving dairy products, and I'd been eating a little bit of cheese. I had that had kind of snuck back in again, and then I found myself kind of craving dairy. And I spoke also in the video about how I was kind of struggling a bit, with a few things. I was struggling with my mood. I was feeling really flat, kind of struggling to get out of bed in the morning, feeling like I had no joy in my life, and quite a bit of body pain, a bit of inflammation and stuff. And I kind of was putting that down to it being midwinter and just a lack of sunshine. And I've kind of thought in my thinking about all this that maybe, I was craving the dairy products, and I thought maybe I was missing something there, and that's why I was craving them. And my thought was that the L-Rootery yogurt increases oxytocin, and maybe that was something that might kind of make me feel a bit better. So I decided to start making the yogurt again. Now, that was about 2 weeks ago. So I've been eating the yogurt and the kefir now for a couple of weeks, and nothing's really changed with my mood and my desire to get out of bed. And I've got some pimples, and I've spoken about that before with dairy. So dairy obviously contributes to acne for me, and it has. The other thing that I've noticed having the dairy is that I've been having some hot flushes and that again. So I think it has a hormonal effect on me. So this last couple of weeks, I've kind of also been thinking about when I was doing the high-fat version of the carnivore diet and how good I felt when I started doing that. And I couldn't remember why I had actually stopped. I knew that I'd had an insulin test, and my insulin had come back higher. So my insulin had been going down. And then when I tested after about 7 weeks on the high-fat carnivore diet, my insulin had actually gone up, and that was kind of a little bit confusing for me. And I thought that it had something to do with that maybe, but I couldn't actually remember. So I went back and revisited my videos, and I realized that I didn't actually make a decision to stop. And so I made a decision to stop eating 3 meals a day, because when I started on that high-fat carnivore, I decided to split my meals into 3 meals, whereas I normally only do 1 or 2 meals a day. But throughout that whole 7 weeks, I was eating 3 meals. And so I thought that maybe that was why my insulin had gone up, because I was eating more often. So I had decided to stop eating 3 meals a day, but somehow I managed to get in my head that I'd actually made a decision to stop it. And I think what actually happened was that I just stopped tracking and then kind of lost my focus. And so there was no decision to stop eating the high-fat carnivore diet. I just kind of fell off the wagon. And so I put into Chronometer yesterday my kind of average day at the moment, and I'm actually only eating about 60% fat. So I'm thinking that this is why I've been feeling so flat. This is why I've been feeling inflamed. This is why my sleep hasn't been as good as it was. And I think that, so when I did the high fat carnivore diet, I became fat adapted. And I think that I've kind of lost that as well because I haven't been going into ketosis even prior to starting to eat the dairy again. So, and I was a little bit confused about why that was. I was like, why am I not in ketosis in the morning anymore? And it's because my fat have been too low. So yes, I'm going back onto the high fat carnivore diet and I'm going to start tracking again. I have actually started tracking again the last couple of days to kind of track my fat going up a little bit. So my point with all this is that I stopped tracking and I lost my focus on the high fat. So tracking my food intake allows me to keep that in the forefront of my mind and stay there. And this is the thing, is most of our diet is habit, and to create new habits takes time. I guess my point here is that this is the perfect example. My falling off the fat wagon is a perfect example of when to track, because when we need to learn more about what we're eating and how it affects our body, and when we need to create new habits around food, using tracking, we can either use it to help us reach our goals, and we can use it to help us to find out what does and does not work for us. Because otherwise, if we're eating and not understanding what we're eating, then the trying to work it all out can actually be really hard. And also by tracking, we have a record of what we've been eating. And that's the other thing as well. If we're using an app like Carb Manager or Chronometer, then we have the record of our food intake. And so if something's not going right or you need to tweak something, you can kind of go back and see what you're eating. So when you're tracking your macros, you can, as I was saying, track and experiment to find out where your sweet spot is, and then create the habits that will allow you to do that on autopilot. And I mean, that can take time. That can take weeks or months or even years. Some people might need to track for a year to really get themselves to a point where they really have it down pat, what they can eat each day, how much of it they can eat, to be able to visualize it on the plate and visualize it on the spoon, and really have that understanding of what you're putting in your mouth and into your body. Tracking is the way to do that. So when it comes to tracking calories, that's a whole other experiment. So the calories in, calories out crowd will tell you to track calories and eat less than you burn each day. But the experience of many carnivores points to that not always being the case. There are people out there eating thousands of calories a day and still, managing to drop weight or maintain their weight. And it doesn't make sense when you put it into that whole calories in, calories out model. When I look back at my tracking, the records that I've got from when I was doing the high-fat carnivore diet, there was times through those weeks where I was eating maintenance calories and I was still kind of dropping weight, because I dropped about 3 kilos or so when I was doing that. And I've been listening to Rebecca Heischman over the last couple of days. And, if you don't know who Rebecca is, she had 10 autoimmune diseases and she weighed only 69 pounds prior to starting on carnivore. And her experience with herself and with clients that she works with says to focus on healing your hormones, because the hormones dictate your body composition. So forget about the calories, especially initially, just get really well fat adapted and leptin sensitive. So after I had done the 7 weeks on high fat carnivore, I felt like I was really fat adapted, and my appetite had changed. So I obviously had more leptin sensitivity there, but I feel like I've gone backwards. I need to stay with it and really get my hormones healed and get my thyroid functioning properly and get things sorted out. So this type of thing that's happened with me is the when to track. So my thought is that we need to track to meet goals, to be able to experiment with food and how it affects us, and to learn about food and to create new habits. So that's my video for today. If you've got any comments or questions or experiences you want to share, just pop those below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe. I thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and share and do all that sort of stuff. And I will talk to you another day. Goodbye for now.